The SUV sat quietly in the driveway, freshly washed, its paint shining in the evening light. Mark had surprised his wife, Emily, with a car just 2 months ago, her dream model, complete with all the latest safety features. He had been proud to give it to her, proud to show how much he trusted her. But lately, something felt off. Emily was distant, often rushing out at odd hours. She would smile and explain away, just errands, just me and a friend. But Mark noticed a change in her voice, the way her hands gripped her purse a little too tightly. He didn't want to be suspicious. He loved her. Yet one night, while scrolling through the SUV's app on his phone, he noticed something strange. The rear camera recordings had long gaps, hours missing. Emily had figured out how to switch it off. Mark's chest tightened. Why would she do that? But then he remembered something she had forgotten. The front camera. The next morning, while Emily thought he was still asleep, Mark slipped into his office and opened the footage. His hands trembled as he clicked through the save files. The rear view showed nothing. It was always blank when she drove out late. But the front camera, the screen lit up with moving images. Emily behind the wheel, her face calm but tense, glancing around nervously. Then, at a red light, a figure climbed into the passenger seat. A man. He leaned close, whispered something, and Emily smiled, a smile Mark hadn't seen in weeks. Mark's stomach sank. His world, once steady, tilted. But just as he was about to shut the laptop in anger, he noticed something else. The man wasn't leaning in romantically. He was pointing at something in her glove box. Emily nodded, her expression serious. Mark frowned. This wasn't what he thought. It wasn't betrayal. It looked like planning. Planning for what? Mark replayed the clip, leaning closer to the screen. The man in the passenger seat wasn't a stranger. He was someone Mark vaguely recognized. A face he had seen once at Emily's office party. Not a co-worker, someone else. The man handed her a folded envelope, sliding it discreetly into her purse. Emily's hand shook as she tucked it away, her lips pressing into a tight line. Mark's mind raced. An affair would have been painful, yes, but this looked different, dangerous. Why hide the rear camera? Why meet in secret? Why accept something in an envelope like it was contraband? He sat back in his chair, heart pounding. When Emily returned that evening, smiling as if nothing was wrong, Mark couldn't bring himself to confront her yet. He needed answers first. So instead of asking, he set the laptop aside, turned to her, and kissed her cheek. "How was your day?" he asked gently. She smiled. Just the usual. But Mark knew nothing about this was usual. Mark couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the man's shadowed face and Emily's trembling hands. The envelope haunted him. The next day, while Emily was in the shower, Mark quietly checked her purse. He expected to find the envelope, proof of betrayal or conspiracy, but it wasn't there. Instead, he found a small key taped under the lining, a key to something he didn't recognize. Mark's pulse quickened. He placed it back exactly as he found it and pretended nothing happened. At breakfast, Emily chatted casually about groceries and family plans, her smile warm and convincing. But to Mark, it now felt rehearsed, like a mask. Later that afternoon, while Emily took the SUV to run errands, Mark opened the app again. He watched the front camera in real time. She parked in a quiet lot near the edge of town. And then she used that mysterious key unlocking a storage unit. Mark's breath caught as he watched the live feed. Emily parked carefully, glanced around, and disappeared into the dimly lit corridor of storage units. The front camera couldn't see further, but Mark had enough pieces to know where to go. The next day, when Emily left for work, Mark drove to the same storage facility. His hands shook as he held the tiny key he'd found. He told himself he only wanted the truth, whatever it was. The lock clicked open with surprising ease. Slowly, he lifted the door. Inside was not what he expected. No signs of romance, no letters from another man. Instead, stacks of boxes lined the walls. Old photo albums, sealed envelopes, and what looked like legal documents sat in neat piles. In the center was a small chest, locked tight. On top of it lay a photo frame turned face down. Mark picked it up carefully. It was a picture of him, Emily, and their daughter from years ago, back when everything felt perfect. But the glass was cracked, as if someone had gripped it too tightly. Mark's chest ached. This wasn't betrayal. It was something heavier. And as he noticed a seal on one of the envelopes, marked confidential, he realized Emily wasn't hiding another man. She was hiding a secret about their family. Mark's fingers hovered over the envelope marked confidential. His heart pounded as he tore it open. Inside, he found documents stamped with legal seals, adoption records, hospital papers, dates that didn't add up. His eyes scanned the pages, disbelief flooding him. Their daughter wasn't Emily's by birth. Mark froze, his breath catching. He read again, slower this time. The hospital record showed Emily listed as guardian, not mother. The paperwork revealed a tragic story. His late sister's child, quietly adopted after the accident years ago. Emily had kept it hidden, never telling Mark the full truth. Tears stung his eyes. He remembered Emily's nervous smiles, her late-night drives, her need to protect something. She hadn't been meeting a lover. She had been meeting the only other person who knew the truth, a lawyer handling the sealed files. Mark sat on the cold floor of the storage unit. The broken photo frame beside him. The truth wasn't betrayal. It was sacrifice. Emily had carried the burden of silence all these years to shield their daughter from pain. But why now? Why was the secret surfacing again? Mark drove home in silence, the weight of the discovery pressing on his chest like stone. Every memory of Emily's late nights, her trembling hands, her careful smiles, it all looked different now. She wasn't hiding guilt. She was hiding fear. That evening, Emily came in from the garage with her usual bright tone. "Dinner's almost ready," she said, setting down groceries. But Mark couldn't look at her the same way anymore. He followed her into the kitchen, the words trembling on his lips. "Emily, we need to talk." She froze, her back still turned. For a long moment she didn't move. Then she slowly set down a knife she was holding. "You know, don't you?" she whispered. Mark's throat tightened. "Why didn't you tell me? Why all the secrecy?" Emily turned, her eyes already glistening. "Because it wasn't my secret to tell. I wanted to protect her. Protect us. But the past has a way of finding its way back, Mark. And now it has." Mark felt both anger and compassion twisting inside him. He wanted to demand answers, yet he also saw the exhaustion in her eyes, the years of carrying something alone. And in that fragile moment, he realized their marriage stood at crossroads. Emily sank into the nearest chair, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. For years, she had carried this truth in silence, and now there was no escape. "I was going to tell you, Mark," she said softly, her voice breaking. "But every time I tried, I looked at her smile, her laughter, and I couldn't risk it. I couldn't risk you looking at her differently." Mark's brow furrowed. "Emily, she's my daughter. Nothing changes that." Tears spilled down Emily's cheeks. "She is your daughter, but not mine, not the way you think." She reached into her purse and pulled out another document, the one she'd hidden the longest. She placed it in front of him. Mark stared at it. His late sister's name stared back at him, along with the signature of guardianship. Emily Harper, legal adoptive parent. "I promised your sister I would raise her as if she were my own," Emily whispered. "I swore I'd protect her, no matter what, and I did. But now, someone else knows. That's why I've been meeting the lawyer. There are people trying to reopen the case, to question her custody. If that happens, she could lose everything." Mark's chest tightened, his anger melting into something heavier, love, sorrow, and fear colliding all at once. Emily looked at him with pleading eyes. "I didn't betray you, Mark. I was just trying to keep our family safe." Mark leaned against the counter, his hands gripping the edge so tightly his knuckles whitened. His mind spun with everything Emily had just confessed. The truth explained so much. Her secrecy, the envelopes, the man from the car, but it also raised new fears. "Who's trying to reopen the case?" he asked quietly. Emily swallowed hard. "Your sister's ex-husband. He found out where we live. He never cared before, but now he wants to fight for custody. He's claiming our daughter should have grown up with him." Mark's jaw clenched. That man walked away years ago. He didn't want responsibility. He doesn't get to just change his mind now. Emily nodded, tears streaming. I know, but the law doesn't always see it that way. That's why I didn't tell you. I didn't want to put that pain on your shoulders. I thought I could handle it quietly. But the front camera, it caught more than I wanted. For the first time, Mark saw the fear beneath her strength. She hadn't lied out of betrayal. She had lied out of love. Mark stepped closer, gently lifting her chin so she would meet his eyes. You should have trusted me. We're stronger together. If you want to fight, then he'll have to go through both of us. Emily's lips trembled, a mixture of relief and guilt washing over her face. I was so afraid you'd hate me. Mark shook his head, his voice firm. No, I could never hate you, but we have to face this as a family. No more secrets. The next week felt like a storm building over their house. Every conversation was careful, every glance heavy with what was coming. Their daughter, blissfully unaware, hummed to herself as she drew pictures at the kitchen table, while Mark and Emily exchanged anxious looks over her head. The papers finally arrived, a notice to appear in court. The ex-husband was demanding custody. Mark sat at the dining room table late into the night, going over every document Emily had kept hidden. Medical records, school reports, proof of abandonment. Every page painted the same picture. Emily had been there from the very beginning, while the man who now wanted custody had vanished. Emily stood behind him, her hand resting gently on his shoulder. What the judge believes him, she whispered. Mark turned to her, his voice steady. Then we fight harder. He left her when she needed him most. That's not something the court can ignore. Emily bit her lip, fear still etched across her face. I'm just scared she'll hear all of this, and it will break her. Mark looked toward their daughter's room, his heart aching. We'll protect her. That's what parents do. For the first time in days, Emily managed a faint smile, and for the first time, Mark felt the strength of their bond return. They were walking into a battle, but this time they'd walk in together. The courtroom was cold and silent, the kind of place where every whisper carried weight. Mark and Emily sat side by side at the long wooden table, their hands clasped beneath the surface. Across from them, the ex-husband leaned back in his chair, his lawyer whispering in his ear with a smug expression. When the judge entered, everyone rose. Mark felt his chest tighten. This wasn't just about documents. It was about their family, their love, their future. The ex-husband's lawyer spoke first, painting a picture of a man who wanted to reconnect with his daughter, a man who claimed he had been denied the chance to raise her. The words stung, twisting reality into something unrecognizable. Then Emily was called to the stand. She took a deep breath and rose, her hands trembling as she placed them on the oath. For a moment, Mark feared she might falter. But then he saw it, the fire in her eyes. I raised her, Emily began, her voice clear despite the quiver. From the moment she lost her mother, I held her, I fed her, I comforted her when she cried at night. I was there at her first day of school, her first doctor's visit, her first scraped knee. He, she turned slightly toward the ex-husband, was nowhere. The courtroom was silent, every word echoing. Emily's voice broke as she added, I may not be her biological mother, but I am her mother in every way that matters. And I will not let her be taken from the only family she has ever known. Mark's throat tightened. He wanted to stand, to shout, to tell the judge the same truth. But for now, all he could do was watch, the woman he loved, defending the child they both cherished. The ex-husband's lawyer rose slowly, a faint smirk on his lips as he approached the stand. Emily straightened her back, bracing herself. Mrs. Harper, he began smoothly, you admit that the child is not biologically yours. So tell me, why should the court believe you are more fit to raise her than her actual blood relative? Emily's hands gripped the railing, her knuckles pale. Because blood isn't what tucks her in at night. Blood isn't what sits up with her when she's sick. Blood isn't what makes her laugh or wipes her tears. Love does that. Commitment does that. I've given her both since the day she was placed in my arms. The lawyer paced. And yet, you kept this adoption a secret, even from your own husband. Doesn't that show dishonesty? Emily faltered for a second, the question hitting her like a stone. But then she lifted her chin. It shows fear. Fear of hurting the people I love most. I made mistakes, yes, but I made them because I was protecting my daughter, and I'd make them again if it meant keeping her safe. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. The lawyer pressed one last time. So you admit you lied? Emily's eyes glistened, but her voice held firm. I admit I sacrificed my own peace for hers. If that's lying, then I accept it. But don't mistake silence for weakness. I will fight for her until my last breath. Mark felt something stir inside him. He couldn't sit still any longer. He rose to his feet. Your Honor, he said, his voice steady. I need to speak. The judge glanced over her glasses. Mr. Harper, you'll have your turn. Sit down. Mark obeyed, but in that moment he knew. When his turn came, he wouldn't hold back. The judge finally turned her attention to Mark. Mr. Harper, please step forward. Mark stood, his heart pounding, and walked to the stand. He placed his hand on the oath, then looked directly at the judge, his voice steady but full of emotion. My wife is right, he began. The man sitting across from us may share blood with my daughter, but he does not share her life. He glanced toward the ex-husband, then back at the judge. When my sister passed away, this man had every chance to step in and be a father. Instead, he walked away. He left a little girl without a mother and without a father. Emily stepped in, not because she had to, but because she loved her. She became the mother that little girl desperately needed. Mark's voice cracked, but he pressed on. I've watched Emily sacrifice everything, her time, her peace of mind, even her own happiness, to make sure our daughter felt whole. She never asked for recognition. She never wanted thanks. She just wanted to give a child a home. He paused, looking at the judge with fierce determination. So, if this court is truly about what's best for the child, then there's no question. Her best interest is with us, her real family. Not a man who abandoned her, but with the parents who never stopped fighting for her. The courtroom was silent. Even the ex-husband shifted uncomfortably in his seat. Emily's eyes glistened with tears, her hand pressed to her heart. For the first time in weeks, Mark saw hope flicker in her expression. The judge leaned forward slightly, her gaze thoughtful. The tension in the room thickened. The decision was drawing closer. The judge nodded slowly, then turned her gaze toward the ex-husband. Mr. Daniels, you may respond. He stood, adjusting his tie nervously. For the first time, some of the arrogance in his posture had faded. I won't deny I made mistakes, he said, his voice low but insistent. When my wife died, I couldn't handle it. I wasn't ready to raise a child on my own. I left because I thought someone else could do better. But now, I regret it. I want another chance. She's my daughter, my blood. He looked around the courtroom, trying to muster sympathy. Maybe I wasn't there before, but people can change. I've changed. I deserve to be in her life. Mark's jaw tightened. Emily's hands trembled, but she kept her eyes fixed on the judge. The judge scribbled notes, then looked back at him. Mr. Daniels, you speak of regret. But regret alone does not erase years of absence. Do you have evidence, any proof, that you are capable of providing the stability and care this child needs? Daniels hesitated, fumbling with his words. I have a steady job now. A house. I can give her more than they can. He gestured vaguely toward Mark and Emily. The judge's face remained unreadable. The courtroom fell silent again, the weight of every word hanging heavy in the air. Mark's heart pounded. This was it, the final stretch. Soon, a decision would be made. The judge folded her hands.